Hello, this is Stephen Dupree with NowEnergetics.com, and we're still doing some YUEN Method basics articles here. And today we're going to talk about the clearing 8 common practitioner blocks. So it's something that I put together as I started working with different people and ran into some common things that block practitioners. We have perception blocks, but we also have some practitioner blocks too. So we're going to look at that today in this video. So let's go to that now. So here's our person being blocked at the wall here. So one of the things that for anybody that does any kind of energy work is, you have to look at your own blocks. And many times we can be blind to some of those blocks. We can't perceive them ourselves. We need some help from other people. And sometimes if you just have a list of these blocks, you can just check them, and sometimes they're weak for you and you don't even realize it, or they're a little weak. So this is a pretty common list. It's a list that I put together over time, and there are more blocks, I'm sure, but these are 8 that I came up with, and some of them are kind of funny, so I decided to write this article. So so a lot of folks don't, they take a lot of training. I sort of the beginning of this article, they take a lot of training in different modalities, and they're okay in the class. It's kind of like a controlled environment, and some people are kind of strong to that controlled environment, but they're weak when they get out of a controlled environment. So we need to clear that if that's part of their block. And a lot of people have that situation where the energy changes as they leave a particular environment. So when we teach folks, we want to make sure they're neutral to that experience of location. It shouldn't matter where they are, who they're with. The energy should be neutral either way. They shouldn't have any block. They shouldn't have any need for have a certain environment or prop or guru around or something like that. There's the energy shouldn't, your energy should be neutral either way. So a lot of times practitioners complain about being stuck, or they're not getting the results. And like everything else with the YUEN method, whatever they say it is not what it is. So it's usually strong. Whatever they complain about is usually strong. So here are the 8 that I've listed over time. These are the very common ones that people talk about, and we'll go, just sort of in the order of 1 through 8. And you'll kind of see some of this in your own practice, and people that you've met in the energy work circles, regardless of modality. These are very common kind of blocks that people have. The good thing about YUEN method is you have a way of measuring this kind of stuff. You can tell whether something affects you or doesn't affect you, right? So you don't have to make an assumption about what you think it is when it's that particular thing is strong. We have a measurement tool that can tell us that that's not what the real issue is. So much like anybody else, a practitioner themselves can have their own stories that are strong, that they believe are the problem. So it's not just clients, it's practitioners too. They won't let go of their story. So here we go. So there's 8 of them here, and I have links here, but let's go talk about them one by one. Everyone talks about, okay, I get out of the training class and I start doing the work, and I'm afraid to hurt somebody. And for most people, they're totally okay with things getting worse. They're, on that side of the neutrality, they're ready for the worst scenario, and all you have to do is check your energy. It takes a half a second. That's not what it is. So the big surprise is people are usually perfectly neutral, meaning the energy is strong on that extreme of it just going totally to a train wreck after a session. Got 1,000 times worse. They're actually ready for it. They're totally strong to that. They're actually, if you go to the extreme of the neutrality, you find that if the person fell off the roof, they died, whatever, they're totally strong to that scenario. So the doom and gloom scenario, people usually have that covered. They claim it's not covered. That's the issue. Usually that's covered energetically because it's not weak. So what the real bother is, here we are again with the opposites. And that's a very common thing that, you think it's one thing, it's the opposite. So that's another good think we put it as a perception block to clear. Look at opposites, because a lot of times if you have an opposite issue with anyone, with yourself or anybody else, you need to pull on that thread a little, because usually it attracts other opposites. So it's not just one opposite. So if you want to, it's good to go and clear all the opposites, count up and find all the opposites you can find and clear that in one shot. So a little tangent there, but that's a really important one, opposites. So people are really afraid of being good. They're afraid of being lights out, untouchable. Tons of people want their work. Can't even, their whole schedule's filled up. They got a waiting list of 1,000 people. People want to pay them 10 times as much just to get a session with them. They're totally weak to that size scenario. So in order for you to be, have a decent practice, you have to be neutral to the success scenario. Most people say they are, and they're not. They're just, that's just what's coming out of their mouth. But they're totally neutral to the other scenario, the worst possible scenario, where they'll do so much harm that no one will ever come to them. Well, they're totally neutral to that. It's if they do so much good and everybody wants to come to them, that's what they're not neutral to. So, and you'll often find that. So the fear of harming someone, it's not what it is. So, okay, so that's number one. So number two, I don't get good results every time. Sometimes with Jane, I'm good, but when I work on Bob, it's up and down. It's all over the place. Well, the way I have this listed here, there's usually the surprise and the real bother. Well, the surprise is up and down is fine. If you think about that for a minute, you check the energy, they're perfectly okay with having very, very inconsistent results. Inconsistency is not the issue, but consistency is the issue, right? Consistent will go weak. And that can manifest many ways in someone's life, obviously. So you have to clear that pretty deep for a practitioner. If they have a consistency weakness, if that's their real bother in their energy, that's usually a couple layers deep, and you have to dig pretty deep into that one. So here I have an example here that I've written. They have experiences, boy, when things were consistent, you were going to get disappointed, right? Shoes got to drop eventually. All good things come to an end. The usual stories that people use. So that's a very typical one for folks. Believe it or not, in the energy work field that you think are positive, and I'm not big on positivity, because neutrality is better, but a lot of times people are afraid of the crippling disappointment after the positive, right? That positive can't possibly remain, or good can't possibly remain. There's always the crippling disappointment and discouragement. So that's a huge block for a lot of people. So we need to clear that when it comes up. So that's a big block for some people, inconsistent results. The other one's not enough clients. So, okay, I've got my practice. I think I'm doing okay, but I don't have enough clients. Well, a lot of times people are very neutral with that. They're putting out that energy. Believe it or not, people won't believe that. But if you check the energy, they're totally strong to having no clients at all. And so they're projecting out that energy. They don't think they are, but that energy's strong and there's no counterbalance. So what does that mean? It means that people even look at their name in the phone book and it's like, oh, not that guy. So believe it or not, you can project out that energy, and people, even unconsciously, people that aren't in energy work can tell that you don't want to work with them. Not that you can say anything you want. You can say, well, I want to have 100 clients. Well, if what your energy is saying is you don't want any clients, that's what people are going to notice. They're going to notice your energy and not what you're saying, right? So we want to get neutral to that scenario. Again, it's a success kind of scenario. You want to be neutral, that you can have so many clients you don't know what to do with yourself, right? So, and here's the, kind of, you can read through this, but here's what, that sort of comes up is a lot of people they get into this work and their schedule nuts, they like scheduling things very tightly. Well, when you have a lot of clients, it kind of pushes against that weakness, right? That I don't have any time. You project out that energy, you don't have any time, you're not going to have any clients, right? And you may not even know that you're doing that. You may not even know that that's your weakness, right? You're projecting that out. And if you don't even out that energy and get neutral, people won't call you, so that's basically what it is. And the other thing that's very common is that there's no hierarchy in this work, and the YUEN method for sure. You never want to be at a kind of master's, student kind of relationship or a conventional healthcare kind of relationship, though. You want evenness in the interaction, and true evenness, not just saying it's even, but your energy has to be even with the client. So you don't get any answers from yourself, you get the answers from your client. So that's where the meeting of the minds and the energies come. And we want to be in the most neutral place for that, and we want to have no hierarchy. That's very important. The hierarchical structure itself is going to create energetic blocks to getting a good result in many cases. So we definitely don't want that. So get neutral to success. Again, it's the success side that people aren't neutral to, right? That blocks as a practitioner. This is a very common one. I can't, I try to work on my brother, kind of work on my mother, can't do it. They don't notice anything. They don't believe in this stuff, and you hear all the stories. So the surprise is it's their energy that causes the problem. It's not the family, it's their energy. They don't think it's not an even exchange there. And so they have to get their own energy neutral. And there's a lot of energy from family energy in general that needs to be neutralized. The can't energy, right? You can't work with your family, all these kind of things. So there's some different things written here. There's a lot of imprints about working with family and things like that. So maybe you could ferret that out in their energy. They have some issue with that back through time and ancestor energy, whatever. So that's a very common thing. But you want your energy even, and you don't want, if you're working on family, you don't want it to be different than working on a stranger. It should be the same energy. So you're looking for evenness here. A lot of practitioners are always playing with their rates. They're they're lowering their rates, thinking they're going to get more clients or whatever. They're playing with the numbers, whatever. And a lot of times it's not about so much the rates, it's about the energy that you're projecting out. So the surprise here, if you project out that energy, that you kind of attract those people that are sensitive on rates because you're sensitive on rates, right? So you want to be neutral about that. You want to set your rates and you want to be neutral about it. And so you don't project out that energy, because that's exactly the person you're going to attract, the bargain hunter, right? And it's okay to still attract the bargain hunter. If you're neutral, you're going to attract that bargain hunter. They're going to pay you what you ask for, right? And they're not going to be negotiating with you or something like that. You're not going to let that. You're going to be neutral to that, so that even if this person negotiates 100% of the time, they come to your office, they feel your energy. It's like, I'm not messing with this guy. They're going to feel that energy, that there's no negotiation here. So some of the issues around getting paid, rates in general, the 5 that I got, I just kind of, and you can do this, you can kind of take a group of practitioners that and just put them in a big group in a stadium somewhere and say, well, I'm going to just average you all out, and that's what I did here. I just took a bunch of people in I think it was a Facebook group or something like that, and I just averaged them all out. So what are the top 5? And I just, energetically checked, and this is what came up. So a lot of people, again, we're relating rates and getting paid and things like that. So a lot of people have issues of all the different ways you can get money. The abundance article on the website talks about this, the different ways you can get money, and it's a big page of things, but the basic ones that came up here is earning, and that weakens a lot of people. It's kind of an indentured servant thing. That's what I wrote here. That's what comes up. Begging, the idea of being paid. In the old days, everyone's got a credit card nowadays, but you still have that energy from the old days where you had to put you put your hand out to get paid. Someone put something in your hand. And for a lot of people, they have begging experiences. So that action of putting out their hand is really a begging experience to them to get paid. So that's a common one. And criticism is another one that's kind of an interesting one that came up. If your own energy projected out, you're going to attract those people and they're going to criticize everything about you, right? So you got to be neutral to all that. get yourself neutral to your own stuff. The bargain hunter, I think I talked about this a little earlier. The paying full price, you know, someone, you set your rate and someone wants to negotiate and all that. So if you have that energy in your energy already, if you're not neutral to that, if you have that in your ancestral chain or whatever, you want to clear that right away. You don't want to be playing around with, you know, bargain hunters, Groupon kind of people. You know, if you want to do it, go ahead. But if the real issue is getting paid, then you want to set your rates and be neutral with that, project that energy out that you're neutral with that. And even if you project that energy out neutrally and you still get a bargain hunter, you're not actually attracting 90% of them that are bargain hunters. You're just attracting the normal amount of them, and that person's not going to negotiate with you, right? They're just going to say, well, that's what they cost. Sometimes I got to pay full price, you know, so that's, you want that kind of experience, right? So and the way you do that is you figure out what you're not neutral to, get neutral, project out a better energy. Most of this is about projecting out better energy, right? Fifth one is medicine man. You know, again, it's not the client's energy, it's your energy, right? If you have a medicine man kind of experience, vow of poverty experience, shaman experience, you know, shaman wasn't a billionaire, you know, he wasn't the richest guy in the neighborhood, you know, in the old days. So he was very highly regarded, but he wasn't the wealthy person. So that's kind of how that works. All right, so that's the rates. Worried about money is another issue with money. So there's a whole financial fear that you have to make sure you project out the right energy here. Again, related to consistency. So and the other one is, as I start working with people, let's say it's a person that's early on starting to put out their shingle and starting to work with the method or some other modality. Well, I don't trust what I'm getting. You know, I'm not in the class anymore, and I can't trust what I'm doing because I don't have anyone to talk to or whatever. It's a very common complaint that, you know, I hear. And again, you know, you're projecting out that energy. So a lot of this is internal work here. Almost every single one of these is internal work, but you have to know that it's you. You know, it's one thing to complain about it and think it's the other guy, but if you check the energy, is it mostly me or everyone else? If it comes back me as the weakness, then you have to look at some layers of what is you're projecting out. Most of the time it's projecting out. It could be, you know, it could be something like that you started renting a new studio and the energy of the studio is creating the problem, the people that were there before that. So, you know, it could be you, it could be the energy's already there. So I'm not going to blame, you know, you got to check the energy. Don't make an assumption. And I don't mean clear it with sage and things like that. There may be some kind of intrinsic energy there that's been left there from before that projects, you know, that it's kind of a shield there. And when you check feng shui and different things, if you have an office, you do want to check the parking lot. You want to check the door. You know, there's a lot of times the energy go weak coming in the door and strong going out. So you want it to be even both ways, right? For your clients, you don't want there to be a barrier there. And a lot of times people don't look at that. They talk about it. They talk about feng shui. I got to put the flow of the energy. You could have feng shui like your door is like a, you know, 12 feet thick. You know, people can't even, you know, the energy is projected there at the door. You know, it has nothing to do with the layout of the whole environment. So, like I said, don't make any assumptions about, you know, what the conventional thinking about feng shui or something. You have to check the energy, right? So I don't trust my answers, so I don't want to get too much off topic here. A lot of people don't accept the answers they get. It's not about trusting the answers. It's like you can't accept the answers you get. You get an answer, but you don't accept it. You won't accept any answer. So it's not trusting. You don't accept any answer, as an example. Not you personally, but let's say the practitioner. So again, it's, you know, a lot of times it's the discernment triad for some. Or the old, I have to become good at it first, then I'll be successful. I'll be able to trust my answers. So it's actually just the opposite of that. So you have a block that you have to struggle to master something. So you don't want to be, you want to have that energy, you want to clear that energy if that comes up weak, right? And the idea that someone could actually trust you could weaken a lot of people, and that could block your answers, right? So that's a very common thing is I don't trust my own answers. Well, what usually comes up is you're close. You don't like it when other people trust you completely to have the right answer, right? And that blocks you from your own answers. So in that case, it's still your energy, but you're kind of projecting it out in such a way that that it boomerangs back to you, and you don't trust your own answers. So that's a good one, actually. And there's the whole notion of try fail. That's a kind of an interesting, funny one. Is a try fail Yoda block. So the idea is that nobody succeeds on the first try. So you want to delete that right away, right? You want to, that's a ridiculous block, that you can't succeed on the first try, right? Your first venture is, oh, it's going to fail, right? So you project out that energy, that's what you get back, right? It's like a boomerang. And yeah, trust in yourself. It's, kind of a shade of the trust in your answers one up here. Similar. So that's number 7 is I don't trust my answers. Number 8, negative self-talk. This is something similar, it's there's shades of similar, and you're basically projecting out this energy. Maybe 5 years down the road, I'll have a lot of clients or something like that. Well, you project out that energy. That's about what you'll get at best. At worst, you won't get anything. So you don't want to have that projected out. So, and you want to check your assumptions. You don't want to make assumptions. So what does that mean? Well, it means you check the energy. It's either strong or weak, right? And most of the times it's strong, and that's not the issue, right? Find out what it is. So that's really important. And you can read through the analysis here a bit related to accepting. And yeah, I guess this is actually a pretty good one about being paid too. This one's kind of deep, the negative self-talk, because if you have an issue with accepting in general, and people would say accepting or rejecting, right? So because that's kind of like both sides of the coin there. So if you have some issue with your neutrality on accepting, rejecting, there could be different layers to it. In this case here, I remember intuiting this from somebody. You don't want to have anything taint accepting things. Oh, I don't want that. No, it's okay. Because that's an energy, right? Let's say you have ancestors that stole things from other people, that suddenly accepting something might be tainted because of an ancestral experience or your own experience from the past, let's say. So the example I have here is a buy Manhattan for a bag of beans, right? So if someone pays you a bag of beans and you get Manhattan, that's a pretty tainted experience there. So that could, if you have ancestors that were in that transaction, that's a pretty big karmic load there in terms of what that could affect you in the here and now, as a karmic experience, that everything that you accept related to payment is tainted. So you spend your whole life in crappy jobs and you don't get paid much, right? So that could be a manifestation, as an example, of something that has nothing to do with you, but you believe it's been your experience, and it's because you're not successful and you can't do anything right and you dropped out of school and all these things. And no, it's, if you check the energy, it may be the ancestor karma that does that to you, right? And you think it's your experience, you're convinced it's you, it's your personality, whatever. And it's the taint of accepting things from this experience 400 years ago, as an example. So be very careful about what you assume, right? Don't make any assumptions. Dig into it, find out what goes weak, follow the weakness, and resolve what you find, right? A lot of times it's not your experience that's making you act the way you act and believe that you are a certain way, and it's really the karma from victims and your ancestors that create the energy that creates these experiences for you. It's not even it has nothing to do with you personally, right? And yet you get the effects of it. So I guess, so that's the 8 common practitioner blocks. And it was kind of a good article to write. I may add a few more on here, but these are very common ones. But a lot of them are your energy or energy, karmic energy, or ancestors, things like that. Make sure you get that straight. Make sure you intuit and don't make any assumptions. That's the important thing with this method. You've got the tools, you got strong and weak. Use them, don't make any assumptions. So that's 8 common practitioner blocks. So we'll just leave it at that. Thanks for watching.